Okay, David here, the chess club. Been an interesting week. Democratic primaries and protest. I get to meet Tulsi Gabbard. Another week of coaching summer program. So just some of the more serious top players here. Got Chava from the synagogue just written up. They got a playground grant from Eden Gardens. Been in the news recently. Definitely remember when they got the first grant. That was on my YouTube channel, and they had the micro grant, and now it's turned into a big playground. So it's a blessing. Got a boy, grandson back in town. So some good tidings. I wanted to ramble about Tulsi Gabbard. It was an honor to meet her. Anyone who knows me, social media, I've been following Tulsi Gabbard for well over 5 years. Since she won Congress scoring on the Bhagavad Gita, I've been sharing her stuff, liking her stuff, posting about her for years, and especially when she supported Bernie Sanders, came out and supported Bernie Sanders, went and dropped from the DNC committee. And I felt then she was going to run for president, and I felt she might win. So looking back in 2016, I thought that she had a better chance against Trump than Sanders for reasons that I'm going to try to connect to consciousness, decision-making, and chess as a parallel to the larger struggles of life. So I got my book here. I'm still reading Artificial Intelligence, Game Changer, and I'd copy this out of Manny P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Things. Mistopheles Lux told me it was his favorite book, and I wrote this years ago. This is his assessment from the ancient Zoroastrian of a spiritual connection to the ancient game of chess, where he said the white king represented Ormond and the black king Ahriman. You got the king side as positive, the queen side is negative. King representing spirit, queen mind, bishop emotions, knight's vitality, the rook's physical body, pawns being the senses, impulses, perceptions, faculty, 8 parts of the soul, according to the ancient Zoroastrian traditions. And white being the self and vehicles, and black being the non-self, false ego. So it's an interesting take on the spiritual sense. Some people, the Baal Shem Tov, supposedly talked about chess as representing thought, mind, and speech. The thought, speech, and action, where the queen represents action, the pieces represent, like the bishop, knight, and rook represents speech, and the pawns represent thought, and or related to your wife, servants, and children, where the queen represents your wife, and the pieces your servants, and the pawns your children. And there's some stories within Hasidus about the spiritual parallels, so I just thought I'd put that up there. And by thinking of the greater parallels of the game of chess as symbolic to the greater struggles that we're facing in society with the direction of society which we're going, the culture wars, so to say. Different people have a different take and desire for which way to take the direction of the world. And people who follow my debates, the Democratic National Committee was here this week. I found multiculturalism, ethno versus civic nationalism, any of these issues, the more popular, like healthcare, and so here in Detroit we had the protest, the Green New Deal, environmentalism, immigration. Some people at InfoWars were here, and you could see the kind of the larger chessboard of reality. And sometimes may not be pieces are clear, one side versus the other. So you could look at Republicans versus Democrats. Even where I used to work, all the King's Men, we used to have sets that were, in fact, Republican versus Democrat, where he had designed like an artistic chess set that actually had the design as Republican versus Democrat for the chess set. So I'd have to look up to see exactly how they did that, like donkey and elephant and maybe famous politicians. So you could look at the greater chessboard of Democrat versus Republican and us as pieces in that greater battle, or within the Democratic Party itself, kind of like the chess set of Biden versus Harris, or Tulsi Gabbard versus Harris. And also I was thinking about the connection to pattern recognition, where generally the debates, where there was very little new there, that most of what happened in the debates was just a rehash of articles or arguments that have been written up in periodicals. So it's somewhat like a chess tournament where people have done their studying, and then the debates is the time for action, where you were seeing what the situation, the preparation, time for preparation is over, and all the preparation comes down to like a blood sports, a debate, and so the Tulsi Gabbard versus Kamala Harris, or Biden versus Harris, Biden versus Booker, all these things, where they largely prep for large amounts of time. These are arguments that they've all given before, and then there's the tournament, the moment in time where they have to make their move, their choice. And like chess, where you have a series of different options, a series of different arguments, like when they asked Tulsi Gabbard about Biden and Kamala Harris's remark about him being racist. So instead of mentioning Biden or directly responding to the question as asked, she used the opportunity to attack Kamala Harris on her record. And so it's an interesting period of like free will decision making, the multiple moves before a person. And also I was able to go right into being part of the local Tulsi Gabbard team. I'd never met any of those people. I'm familiar with the Hare Krishnas, and Tulsi Gabbard is very famous among the ISKCON and Hare Krishna, although very few people actually know her. So I took the opportunity to go down to the watch party. I put that up on my YouTube page, and I had the flowers on. I spoke to the people doing it. I told them how much I admired Gabbard and wanted to help out or just watch. In the beginning, I just watched the debate. After like an hour of watching the debate, I started speaking to people, and then I actually started trying to facilitate and be of help and assistance to the movement. And I've worked in event management and in different things, so although Gabbard has good supporters, it didn't seem that any of them had possibly as much training as me in doing that field, so I was able to go straight into assistance. And then her father and mother came in, and her brother, spoke to them at length. I spoke to Mike Gabbard for at least 15-20 minutes, and we spoke about Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita. Her brother Jai spoke to about Krishna, and she mentioned the debate with like the nuclear weapons and God forbid the false signal to Hawaii where they said missiles been launched at them and to take shelter, and she said there is no shelter. And I took that somewhat as a message from the Bhagavad Gita, from there is no shelter in this material world. That when she said that, she was talking about resistant nuclear weapons coming, and there was no shelter from that. But the way she said it, it reminded me of the greater teachings of Bhagavad Gita, Hinduism, that there is no shelter in this material world. So I mentioned that to her father, and we spoke about service. And as I say, I volunteer at the chess club as a form of service, and just giving back and doing something beneficial for society. You get a lot of people here also that life is relatively been good to them, and come here to chess coach. So I'm not sure I have that much to ramble on. Hopefully we'll do a week in review with Church of Entropy. I haven't quite reached my 1,000 subscribers. I'm pretty close. They changed the rules also on YouTube. So, it looks like the creator studio is still there, even though they said it's not going to be there. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully I'll get the 1,000 subscribers pretty soon. I've been reading, I got these books from Hamerov and Penrose, a collection of papers on consciousness. I had more time to continue my research on that and understand the theories at a higher level. And so I look forward to forwarding that research. And I'm still reading this chess book about artificial intelligence and Alpha Zero and the different way that it goes about thinking and its relationship possibly to human cognition. So I'm not sure I have an exact ramble. I was thinking of the debates. I've mentioned that many times in the past. Similar to chess and the analysis tree of pattern recognition in terms of arguments and argumentative structures, in terms of upping the level of discussion where people understand the nature of forming well thought out ideas. And that usually is like chess, for like studying an opening, or repertoires where you have a well understood idea of how the game works, how to make an attack, how to open up your pieces. In that sense, for debate, it's much similar. We have well thought out ideas, and you've considered countless arguments. Okay, this is my idea, and there's various arguments like, okay, multiculturalism. I mentioned flowing debates. So the concept of flowing debates is almost exactly parallel to the chess analysis trees. And it's interesting. Alpha Zero does in a similar way to think like a grandmaster or any of the programs. But so let's say I'm in favor of its politics, but something I argue pretty often. Duvid's a multiculturalist, and then there's the different arguments about it, economic arguments, social cohesion. The rights of society, people who built up society, or so to say, were here first, and all these different things where I could, so to say, give one move, pro-multiculturalism, and then there could be hundreds of various attacks against it, and each attack against it might have countless counter replies, and each one would have counter replies, and that goes like debate flowing, which is the exact same nature of chess analysis trees. So in the debates on politics, that's what I said, there wasn't really anything new. All the arguments between Booker and Harris and Biden and the environmentalism, all these things have been discussed many, many times before. And at the end of the day, like chess, you can only make one move at a time. Consciousness appears to be the same thing, where despite all like the trillions of neurons and different things happening, that the perception of consciousness is that you think about one thing at a time, that you have there's like if it was Descartes or after him, I forget the names, who talked about the stage of the mind, where there's basically one thing on stage at a time, and it might be like backup actors, but basically so similar to chess, where you control a whole army, you have a bunch of pressure and coordinating pieces. When it comes down to an actual move, you only can move one piece at a time. And so similar in debate, where you could only make one argument at a time. So even if you're thinking about a complicated issue like healthcare, multiculturalism, immigration, and someone makes a comment, give the example of Kamala Harris and Tulsi Gabbard, where you can only make one move at a time, and you have to choose between the various options of how you're going to go forward, and then that's determinative. You can't go backwards in time. You might be able to move the piece backward and forward, but once you've chosen that move, time is ticking forward, and that's why I favor chess as a good way of understanding these concepts of consciousness, decision-making, what I'll refer to as free will, and so we'll keep the discussion going. And I just wanted to put some of these thoughts together and try to deepen my understanding, connect it to more and more things. Like the Baal Shem Tov was asked, how do you know whether a Torah is true? Like a spiritual idea. Is a spiritual idea is true if it helps you understand other things. So if some of these concepts are true, they should apply across the field to multiple different elements. So, that's what I say, like the analysis trees, decision making, and apply that to debate the larger chessboard of life and conflicting ways of life. And many ways you don't have to have like a whole winner, like black or white. You have conflicting control. Like control of the center or various different things, and things happen simultaneously. So I have to try to develop these ideas a little more. But I'm glad I get a ramble in. So blessings, everyone. We got Kava here in the news. Her farm got a grant. Got a grandson here. So pretty awesome. So God bless everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Hope Sunday will be on with Church Entropy in the Week in Review if she's available. And we'll keep on forwarding these ideas.